Hey everybody, I'm finally getting back to working on the John Deere 185 Hydro lawnmower deck. Last time I worked on this, what I was trying to do is I was trying to repair these holes in the deck right here. I was trying to arc weld it, and the arc force was just blowing the rusty thin gauge metal here just to smithereens and making bigger holes and making it much worse. So I gave up on that. I was going to try and use some welding rod or some silicon brazing rod for the acetylene torch. So I went to my local air gas distributor, and I had watched Keith Fenner do quite a few repairs, and I believe it was on his channel that I had noticed that he was using a flux compound that's in a can, and he would just keep the can open on his bench top as he was working, and he would dip the rod in the flux, and that's what he was using. So I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea, I'll try that. So I went there and I found the can on the shelf and brought it up to the counter, and the guy rang it up, and it was like $30 for that little can, and I was shocked. I didn't realize how expensive it was. It's like a powder flux compound. So I actually recognized the guy behind the counter. I hadn't seen him in years. I didn't even know he was working for Air Gas, but we ended up talking, and he said, I said, well, what are you welding? And I explained to him, well, I just got some repairs that I wanted to do. And he says, well, why not just use the flux-coated rod? And I said, well, I said, I know they have the flux-coated rod, but I'd seen a guy use this flux powder, so I was going to get that, but I had no idea how expensive it was. He said, oh, yeah, by all means. He said, just get some flux-coated rod. So he set me up with this rod right here, and I just did my first repair. I didn't end up videoing this repair because it was just a small repair. What had happened was the gear shift lever on the XR80 motorcycle had bent, and that was the second time that the kids bent it by hitting something. So this time when I went to bend it back, it snapped, which I expected was going to happen. So I ended up repairing that with the rod here, and using a size 0 torch on my Victor torch oxyacetylene setup, and I couldn't believe how easy it was. So I figured, well, I think maybe I'll have better luck with this. So I'm actually kind of naive as to the fact of what I'm actually doing here, because the tip is called a welding tip, but I think it's actually brazing is the operation that I'm doing. And I believe this is actually brazing rod. Where the flux is now missing on the end here, where I stopped using it, I can see the color of it. It looks like it's almost like a brass color or a bronze color. So I think this might be silica bronze flux-coated rod. I don't know. But anyways, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my my 3M, what do you call this thing? The disc with the little plastic fingers on it. Oh, I forgot what you call these. Well, whatever. Oh, that's not good. Bristle disc, that's it. Bristle disc. Alright, this is going to be tricky because some of these holes are pretty big. Alright, let's try this again. Alright, that's kind of a train wreck. I can see now I'm going to need some kind of a backing metal or something. I mean, I'm depositing the filler metal on there, that's for sure, but I'm also not really closing that hole much. So here's the new plan. I just cut this piece of flashing, and I just used the hammer and kind of peened it into the shape so it fits underneath here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this big steel pin right here, and I'm going to rest this back down on here, just pushing on here. And that flashing might be too thin for this job. We'll find out. Alright, try this again. Blew that flashing right on out of there. Oh no, it's actually still in there. It's just not doing anything. It's too far. It's not making a good connection there. Over here, it just kind of went away altogether. Oh no, that is out of there. That's the steel that's in there. Ow. Hole in my glove. What's all the snap, crackling, and popping? Well, looks like it's the same problem I've had right along when I try and repair this deck. The metal's just too thin for me to do anything with. I wonder if MIG welding would be the way to go. Too bad I don't have a MIG welder. Maybe if I find some thicker backing metal. Well, I forgot to turn the camera on that time, but I think I'm onto something. I just closed up this whole section right here. What I did was no backing metal, flashing or sheet metal or anything behind there. All I did was I made sure that big steel pin that I've got behind underneath there was right up against that area. So what happens when I make the molten puddle, it can't just fall through to nothing. That's actually supporting it. Now the only thing I'm not sure of is whether or not I just welded to that rod, and I didn't. Good. So it just sits. Rod just sits down in there and acts as a little dam to keep this metal from getting anywhere. So that seemed to work out pretty well. So I get kind of a big gap there, so I just use the ball peen hammer and bash that down against it. I'm not going to have the prettiest looking weld repair there, but better than the hole. So now I should be able to do that section there. Well, that worked. Oh, it's getting a little trickier here because of the contour of this thing. Not working as well there. Nope. Yeah, so. Sure seems an awful lot of filler rod though being consumed. Must just be going onto the underside of the deck. Turning into some kind of mess under there. Alright, I had to move this thing down to the ground off the table because I had to prop it up, and I got a round piece, just a round piece of scrap in there that kind of roughly fits the contour of the back side of that corner right there. Let's see how that works. I think I've clogged my tip. Huh?
Step is ready.
Okay. What a shot. I managed to weld that piece on. That's great.